I forgot to thank Alice. I forgot to thank Alistair again after the Q&As for his presentation. So thank you once again, Alistair, for the presentation you gave us on TNTEI. Now for our final presentation from my colleague, Ilana Tahan, the lead curator of Hebrew and Eastern Christian collections. You're now going to speak to us about the Hebrew Manuscripts exhibition.
Thank you very much indeed, Colin and Chris. And thank you, Nasira, for inviting me to give this presentation. Sorry, something's happened here. But, I can't move between slides for some reason. I don't know.
Try the arrow keys.
That's what I'm doing.
Oh, right. Okay. It may have frozen. So, so I'll just unshare you and then just fire it up again and we'll try again. So,
all right then.
I'll just switch off the, I'll just pause.
Thank you very much to Chris and Colin and to Nasira for inviting me to present today at the Nasira conference. I'm sorry about the hiccup at the very beginning. They say that people who wait, they end up receiving very good things. So I hope this presentation will prove this case. In today's presentation, I have 3 sections, and the very first section is an introduction in which I'm presenting to you some reflections about the pandemic. The second part will be a very brief overview about the Hebrew Manuscripts collection and its digitization, and that is because this particular project has been closely linked to the Hebrew Manuscripts Journeys of the Written Word exhibition, which is the main topic of my presentation today. So without further ado, let me start by saying that the year 2020 has been a tough year that has brought unforeseen and devastating events to mankind. The coronavirus pandemic spread swiftly across the planet, disrupting nearly every aspect of our daily life, bringing sweeping changes to the way we work, travel, socialize, and communicate. The global pandemic has challenged and continues to challenge relentlessly academic, cultural, and social institutions on many fronts. Since its alarming onset in early 2020, while constantly seeking mitigating solutions and innovative ways to counteract the harsh reality, libraries have religiously endeavored to safeguard the health and safety of personnel and users, which to this day have remained paramount. Adhering to stringent guidelines, libraries of all types and sizes the world over were compelled to shut their doors when confronted with this invisible and deadly threat. We have experienced the brutal effect of lockdowns on libraries, including our own, and have witnessed how prolonged closures of these temples of knowledge, learning, and inspiration have been punctuated by enthusiastically received reopening intervals that had regrettably been sporadic and short-lived. Despite numerous obstacles, chief among them loss of access to the physical collections, libraries and their devoted librarians, keepers, and curators have nonetheless succeeded in continuing to disseminate information and knowledge and in keeping their eager users and researchers engaged. This could not have been possible without the technological advances libraries and their enterprising and resourceful staff have increasingly availed themselves in recent decades. As I said before, the main topic of today's presentation is the Hebrew manuscript exhibition and the role technology played in facilitating access to it during the pandemic. However, it is important to refer, albeit briefly, to a remarkable Hebraic digital resource that proved indispensable in the dire pandemic period. The impetus for putting up an exhibition of manuscripts from the British Library's Hebrew collection emerged in 2018 as we embarked on the final stages of a major digitization project. One of the greatest assets of the internationally famed British Library Hebrew collection are its Hebrew manuscripts. And here I'm showing you very briefly the content, the geographical expanse of the collection, the large number of items, of course, and not to forget the coverage of this collection. Absolutely every branch of Jewish studies, religious and secular, is represented in the collection. Of course, the geographical expanse, we have manuscripts taking in Europe, the Middle East, the North Africa, and the Far East as well. And again, the languages, apart from Hebrew, we have in the collection an enormous amount of manuscripts written in other Jewish languages using the Hebrew alphabet, like, as for example, Judeo-Arabic, Judeo-Persian, Judeo-Italian, Yiddish, Judeo-Spanish, and more. And finally, about the formats, most of the manuscripts are bound codices, but we also have Torah and Esther scrolls, broadsides, and scrolls of other biblical books. Between 2013 and 2020, the library launched into a far-reaching, externally funded project, which is known as the Hebrew Manuscript Digitization Project, HMDP for short. Its principal objective was to provide free online access to the library's entire Hebrew manuscript collection through manuscript conservation and imaging, metadata creation, and online presentation. Now, the project had two main phases that lasted nearly 7 years. In phase one, as you can see in this slide, which lasted from 2013 and until mid-July 2016, we actually managed to digitize cover to cover over 1,300 manuscripts from the collection. And that yielded over 435,000 images. This phase of the project was generously funded by the Polonsky Foundation. In phase two of this project, we partnered with the National Library of Israel. This particular phase lasted slightly longer than 4 years, and that is because the pandemic occurred in the middle. And during these 4 years plus, we managed to capture digitally, cover to cover, nearly 1,500 manuscripts. You can see here the yield of images, quite a large one as well, and also the total, a very vast number of images, nearly 750,000 images from these two phases of the HMDP. What I wanted to mention here also is that the the outputs of this exceptionally challenging and large-scale project have been particularly beneficial during the pandemic year, when physical access, as I mentioned earlier, to the rich and diverse Hebrew manuscript collection was hindered. The digital surrogates enabled users and researchers affected by stringent lockdowns and travel restrictions to interact with the texts and the pictorial content from their own homes. And that was an enormous bonus. So to sum up the benefits, and these are a summary of the benefits of the HMDP during the pandemic period. Again, I'm mentioning here the large number of manuscripts which are now accessible to a global audience. That was an enormous benefit to users, to researchers, wherever they were. The second important thing was that we covered these manuscripts digitally, cover to cover, and also we created searchable catalog records with full metadata, and these were made freely available on the digitized manuscript platform, the link of which I am providing here in the slide. As a spin-off to the HMDP, we also created a very important hub supported by the Polonsky Foundation, and that was the Polonsky Foundation catalog of digitized Hebrew manuscripts, which facilitates until now and continues to facilitate research and new work using the digital collections. It includes collection items, descriptions of manuscripts, academic articles by well-known scholars on different subjects, on different topics, including biblical studies, Kabbalistic studies, art, and so forth. And people can access it freely at the link I have provided here. So these were enormous, enormous benefits. And of course, I mentioned this particular project because it's interconnected, closely connected with the Hebrew manuscripts exhibition that we put up for visitors in Pakar 2, the new gallery of the library last year. But we'll see what happened, because this exhibition had a lot of challenges and a lot of problems to face. Now, I'll move on to the main topic of today's presentation. And of course, this is the Hebrew manuscript exhibition, and its full title was Hebrew Manuscripts, Journeys of the Written Word. And here you have a beautiful picture giving you the ambiance of the exhibition, the layout, and you can see some of the manuscripts. This image, this picture was taken from at the very entrance of the exhibition in Pakar 2, which is a new gallery, by the way, which is a new gallery that opened, the library opened in 2018. Which accommodates a rather small number of artifacts, not more than 45 to be more precise. So, what were the aims and content of this exhibition? So let us look at some of these. Our aim, of course, the initial aim was to actually celebrate the completion of the Hebrew manuscript digitization project. As I said, there was a bond, a connection between these two, to inspire people to study the collection and to stimulate interpretation and research. The exhibition itself was supposed to showcase 44 outstanding objects. As I said, this was the limit in Bakar 2, in this new gallery. We couldn't have more than 44 or 45 objects. And that this display included 39 manuscripts, which is just a snapshot of the British Library remarkable rich and wide-ranging Hebrew manuscript collection. Imagine, colleagues, that 39 manuscripts from about 2,800. A very tall order, a very difficult choice. This was not an exhibition about Judaism, about religious texts, about religion. This was an exhibition in which we wanted to show texts and written tradition that goes beyond the Bible. In fact, we wanted to show that Jewish history and culture had a strong written tradition that went beyond the Bible, and thus we are very keen to convey through the chosen artifacts the power of the written word to bring people together. We wanted to show that the Jewish writings produced by the diasporic communities of the Jewish people, they were taking inspiration from and interacting with local cultures and shaping local stories. So that was one of our main aims. We also wanted to show not just iconic manuscripts that people expected to see, but we also wanted to show some never seen before artifacts so that people can become familiar with some new, novel manuscripts that exist in our collection. Now, the exhibition had four defined sections. One was called The Bible and Beyond. The second, Living Together. The third, The Power of Letters and Words. And finally, the last section was devoted to manuscripts about science and scholarship. So these were the main section of the exhibition, and these were its main aims. Now, I just want to emphasize another aspect, which is not in this slide, but I think it might interest you. That all in all, the preparations, the actual, factual, and hands-on preparation for this exhibition lasted just 10 months. And that would not have been possible had we not had access to the digitized manuscripts that were provided by the Hebrew Manuscript Digitization Project. We were reliant for every single aspect of the planning, selecting, planning, and the layout of the manuscript on the digital surrogates of the manuscripts. That it's a very important point that I wanted to make. And also, imagine that we couldn't call up the manuscripts so freely. It would have been difficult to call up 100 manuscripts and choose about 40 or 45 of them. So the digital surrogates were absolutely instrumental when we had to plan and to select and plan the exhibition. I wanted you to understand that. It's a very important point that I wish to make. Now, if we look at these, this next slide, we'll see what were the key messages. Despite the fact that we only had a very modest number of artifacts, there were very strong key messages that this exhibition imparted. And as you can see here, I selected the four most prominent key messages. the magnitude of written culture as the bond connecting the Jewish communities from all corners of the world. That was very clearly expressed and represented in the artifacts. And also the centrality of the Hebrew language and the Hebrew script, linking diaspora Jews and documenting their experience. Every single object in among the 39 manuscripts were Hebrew manuscripts. We didn't include any Western manuscript in any other language, Western languages. They're all Hebrew or other Jewish languages in Hebrew script. We also, I mean, the objects show that that was indeed a living proof of the centuries-long culture, history, and traditions of the Jewish people, because we had manuscripts as early as 10th century, and also manuscripts from the 19th century. As you will see shortly, I'll give you an example of these manuscripts. And of course, another important message was to show the high points and signs of conflict. Through these documents, we wanted to show the exchanges of ideas, the exchanges of knowledge, the exchanges of scholarship. And we wanted to show the interaction between Jews and their non-Jewish neighbors in the communities they lived in. Now, because the exhibition faced so many difficulties, as you can see in this slide.
Ilana, can I just say you've got another 5 minutes? Or just
okay.
About, yeah.
The exhibition was postponed. As you can see, this is the timeline of what actually happened during the pandemic year. We couldn't open it, we couldn't launch it, and occasionally open it, then we had to close it, and you have here all the dates. Finally, it reopened for a very short time, and it closed finally on the 6th of June. So how did we cope with the with promoting it? How did we popularize this exhibition? How did we bring it? How did we reach out to the national and international audiences? Because that was an exhibition for the people. People had to come and see it. They couldn't do it. We relied heavily on digital tools. And you can see here all the tools that we actually used in order to promote the exhibition, and some figures. I mean, not only we've done that at curatorial level, but the promotion was done also at corporate level by the social media, by the unit of the social media of the British Library and so forth. So here I'm giving you a few figures. For instance, the blogs that we written about it were 11, about the exhibition, objects about 11. And then we have social media and Twitter, Facebook, about 200 that the curators have posted. We have poster adverts, and we had the press. And we have, thanks to Zoom, we have 14 digital curators walkthroughs and PowerPoint presentation. And we also have virtual media interviews, because we couldn't go and to be interviewed by the BBC and the Associated Press on site. We had to do that virtually. So you can see everything was done virtually. But one of the most important digital tools was, of course, the creation of the three-dimensional virtual tour of the entire exhibition. And I'm giving you here the link to it, because this link will remain on our website until next year. And that was a tour de force, in fact, because that reached not less than 19,623 people from different countries, 132 countries. So we managed with this virtual tour, which not only shows you the space of the exhibition, but also gives you the narrative, the audios, the videos, every single element included in the exhibition. And more than that, it gives you links to the digitized Hebrew manuscripts to allow visitors to delve even deeper and to learn even more about the manuscripts that they on show. And after that, we also created an audio tour for the visually impaired. The link is there and it can be accessed. I haven't got any figures about that because that was done more recently. So we haven't gauged how many people have accessed it. Now, just to give you a few examples of how digital tools and Zoom and blogs have helped us to reach, how we engage with this tool and how we reached audiences. For instance, the Kaifeng Torah scroll, which was one of the objects, one of the artifacts in the exhibition, the blog that we wrote about it received 640 visits. The Fatnama, the Book of Conquest, which was one of the showpieces in the exhibition, Persia, 17th to 18th century, the blog we wrote about it received 799 visits. You see the power of the digital tools. This is another using the Fatnama picture from the Fatnama to advertise for a digital private view, actually in association with the National Library of Israel, which was again done virtually, as you can imagine. Now, the Leipzig Agada, another important object in the exhibition, you can see here that it was one of the sorry about that. One of the top Facebook posts, which had 280 likes and so to 23,000 impressions. And another very important manuscript, which was a Kabbalistic work from the 15th century, a very important manuscript. The author was Abraham Abulafia. On Instagram, it received this number of likes and impressions. Just gives you a few statistics about. Now, the press was inundated with articles about our exhibition. Here you have some excerpts from articles that appear, and you can see some of the newspapers, virtual newspapers, that actually published some of our articles, and they reached a very large number of readers. Of course, these are not all the newspapers that we approach. We approach the Guardian, we approach other newspapers. And also, I wanted just to show you some other very popular exhibits. For instance, this autograph response for Maimonides from the Cairo Geniza, and these beautiful, beautiful marriage contracts, the left one from Tangier and the right one from Calcutta, both from the 19th century. They received many accolades. They were much loved by our virtual visitors. And of course, this beautifully illuminated calendrical and astronomical manuscript from the 15th century with this glorious color charter in the middle. So, ladies and gentlemen, just to sum up, I wanted to say that notwithstanding the harsh reality, the many difficult obstacles and challenges that were put before us because of the pandemic, the Hebrew Manuscripts exhibition has been a great success and a memorable celebration of the British Library remarkably rich and matchless Hebrew collection. Thank you very much indeed for your attention.
Ilana, thank you very, very much indeed for that wonderful presentation about the Hebrew manuscripts. Are there any questions or people want to ask? No questions? Okay. Oh, is there something in the chat?
Cesar's just saying that that was a wonderful talk and that the audience is stunned into silence.
Absolutely, absolutely. Probably exactly. It doesn't. It's like going to a concert and an encore would destroy what went before.
Well, that's too kind, Colin. Too kind.
Oh, I speak too soon, Gillian.
Hello, Ilana. Thank you for a wonderful presentation.
Thank you very much, Gillian.
And, you know, you were talking about the difficulty of choosing from your immensely rich collection and the importance, you know, you wouldn't have been able to do this without digitization and being able to look at the digital manuscripts. But did you find that actually having all the digitization done made your job even more difficult, because when you're physically pulling manuscripts out of stacks, there's kind of a limit to your physical ability to look at them all together. But with digitization, you know, it must have made the job even harder because it's so easy to look at so much stuff.
Well, we had something in mind. You see, when we digitized, we constantly took notes of what would be interesting. As I said, we started thinking about this exhibition in 2018. So we already sort of ruminated, thought about it. What would be nice to put in an exhibition celebrating the end, the completion of our digitization project? And we had already a list, which we then went to the digitized surrogates to make absolutely sure that the openings were clean, that the bibliography was very important because you had to read about the manuscripts. That was very important. We didn't have to go far away to start looking at the basic secondary literature. That was extremely important. We also, when we made up our mind, we could immediately take some copies of the pictures and lay them out without bringing the manuscripts. Yes, we could do like a rehearsal, pre-exhibition rehearsal. And that helped as well, because we can immediately extract a picture from the thousands and thousands of pictures that we think will be suitable. So that was helpful. As I said, we already had some idea, and we wanted, of course, we had the iconic manuscript, the Harley Bible and the Sloan Haggadah and all that, but we wanted also to show something that nobody has ever seen before. And we found some extraordinary manuscripts, beautiful in their own right. They had a message. Maybe they are not so beautifully decorated, but they had a message. They show the interaction with the local community. They show maybe the censorship in Hebrew manuscripts. We wanted to show this interaction, the high points and the low points, through the manuscripts. So we managed to do that with the help of the surrogates. That helped us. As I said, the list was there in our mind.
Thank you so much. Sort of mindful digitization is the watchword.
But you also have that in your own library, Gillian. You managed to digitize an enormous amount of your treasures. I know from Cesar. I know.
And more still to go. We're following in your footsteps.
Oh, that is wonderful, wonderful. I think Polonsky should constantly do that for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gillian. If I don't see any more questions and answers, so first of all, Ilana, thank you so much for such an inspiring presentation. And actually, it's now my turn, really. I just want to thank again all the speakers for making this afternoon a success. And